I think it's raining. Do you know how much we average? 400 miles a day? Not even? 500?
That's 3 to 400.
Hi, and welcome back to Roam Away from Home. I'm Taylor, and today we're actually going to kind of shift gears and talk about the most stressful time that we had during RV life. It was a time that we traveled to 5 states in 5 days. Now, if you watched our last video, you know that we spent 7 weeks in one state of Oregon, and this time we just plowed through the whole thing. We do not recommend this, and we know a lot of first-time RVers really are gung-ho about seeing the most in the shortest amount of time, but as full-timers for now a year, we recommend taking your time, taking it easy. We actually even know someone who tried to see all 50 states in 30 days, and for us, that's a hard no-go. However, we do understand that sometimes you need to get somewhere quickly. And when that happens, we're going to give you some tips on how you can make it easier on yourself and actually accomplish the goal of getting to your event in a very short time. One of the reasons that we found that people actually do end up doing these really fast travel times is because they're on someone else's schedule. So most of the time that this happens, people that are full-time van life or full-time RV life, they need to get to a family event. That's the most common that we've seen. We kind of nicknamed this trip Journey to Frontier Days because the whole point of this trip was to get from Oregon to Cheyenne, Wyoming, so that we can go to the rodeo Frontier Days in Cheyenne. And in our case, we were meeting up with Mike's grandparents, so we were on a schedule. The reason it was so packed is because not only did we extend our stay in Oregon, we also were waiting on a spare tire in Bandon. And because of that week-long wait for that tire, we had to fly through these 5 states. We're going to share some tips with you on if you are traveling at a very, very, very fast pace, how you can make it less stressful on yourself. Even though we don't recommend it, it can be done. The number one thing that really impacted us during this 5 states and 5 days travel time was that we couldn't work. We work remotely, we need to make an income, and a lot of our income and our job depends on content creation and, creating the YouTube channel and posting on social media and stuff, and that's really hard to do when you're constantly on the move. When you're constantly on the move, you don't have as much time to plan for service and plan to, really hunker down in a spot and get some stuff done. So to plan for that, what you can do is actually front load all your work. So if you know that you're going to have to work during that time, do as much ahead of time as you can. So in our case, we pre-recorded several YouTube videos and we scheduled out a lot of social media because we knew that not only during that 5 days, but also the time that we were meeting up with Mike's grandparents, we weren't going to want to work. So we scheduled out all the content that we needed to publish throughout the next basically 10 days. Because again, after that crazy travel time, you're also going to be exhausted. So plan a little buffer zone so that you don't have to then get right back to work when you're at your peak exhaustion level. This makes it a lot less stressful on you and keeps your business going. If you're working a more typical full-time remote job, then you're going to probably want to take some time off during those travel times. And that gets a little bit difficult because you probably are going to want to take some PTO once you arrive at whatever event you're getting there for, but you're also going to need some beforehand. So plan ahead for that and plan your PTO accordingly. Because you're RVing, you basically have to set up and take down your RV or your setup or your camp setup every single time that you go to these new destinations. So normally when you get to a spot and you stay there for a few days, you get to enjoy it, you get to have your chairs out and all that kind of stuff. But when you're going boom, 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 boom every day, you basically put out the minimum. So one of the ways that you can plan for this is to set up your RV kind of like urban camping so that the things you need the most are very easily accessible. So in our case, that means that we're leaving out the dog food so that we can feed them whenever we want without shifting things around. We leave out our chairs or we leave out the really important things so that we can sit outside or enjoy whatever little time we have in the area. We also leave out some basic things that we can eat without cooking. So, bars, or we often eat like Caesar salad wraps with canned chicken, so we don't have to mess around with the fridge or the propane or the stove or anything like that. We keep it as simple as possible. And we do that so that we can grab the things we need and then pack it back up and hit the road the next day. Another thing that you're really going to want to plan is where you're going to stay. You can make it really easy on yourself to book an RV resort in advance. However, we didn't want to do that because our goal was to go as far as we could every single day. For that reason, we didn't actually pick a spot. It's also true that some unexpected things might come up. So if the weather is bad, you might not actually make it to that spot for that one night that you were planning on it. What we ended up doing was picking boondocking spots that were right off the freeway and had a lot of reviews so that we actually knew that they were decent and easy to get to. That being said, the one time that I picked a boondocking spot that appeared close to off the freeway, it was about 8 miles off the freeway. It was down this crazy road, the worst road that we've ever been on, super narrow, trees scratching the side of our RV the whole time. About a mile into this road, we realized, okay, we should probably turn around. Well, there wasn't a spot to turn around. On this 8-mile road, we had to actually go 2 miles down the road even farther and then make like a 15-point turn. And it was on the edge of a cliff. Mike had to go right up to the trees. I was in the back, guiding the RV and everything. And this was after a super long travel day. And so we were exhausted trying to make this 15-point turn on the edge of a cliff. And I do not recommend that. Pick the easiest spot. Basically, don't go off-roading during this time. Make it just paved roads, Walmarts, Cracker Barrels, whatever it is to have the easiest time for you. The good news about this time is that we actually turned around. Just down the road was a free RV park. It's called 50,000 Silver Dollar, and highly recommend if you're doing a trip from Idaho to Montana. It was a beautiful spot and it had the coolest little store, super easy to get to, electric hookups, everything. So pick places like that. Pick the easy places, the places that might give you Wi-Fi and stuff like that, instead of trying to go 8 miles down this tiny dirt road that we ended up not being able to make it to. And kind of on that note, when you're traveling and you're trying to pick these easy spots for yourself, also check the weather, because you're blowing through many different climate zones and states and cities. So even if where you're leaving is good weather, it might not continue to be good weather. Our favorite app is the Weather Channel app, and we do recommend premium. You can check radar to see precipitation, temperature, and all of that kind of stuff. Wind, especially when you're an RVer, but make sure to check it for your whole route, not just your start and ending point. For example, when I started filming this YouTube, it was bright and sunny out, and now it's pouring rain. So you never know when it's going to change, but you should check radar to make sure that you will be safe driving. During this time when we were going 5 states in 5 days, we averaged about, 300 to 400 miles a day. And when you're doing that, a lot of things can happen unexpectedly. So maybe there's a fatality on the highway and that highway is shut down. Maybe there's a bad weather system like we were just talking about. Or maybe something happens to your vehicle and you actually need to go to the mechanic or something, flat tire, engine goes out, overheating, whatever it is. So if you are traveling for a very specific event, especially like concert, wedding, family reunion, that's only happening one day and you need to get there, try to add a couple buffer days. So try and get there really quickly and then have a couple days where you can actually relax in that location or near that location. That is what we ended up doing in our 5 states in 5 days. We blew through all the way to Wyoming because we just weren't sure if something would happen. And we ended up staying in the Tetons and Du Bois, Wyoming for a while. By a while, I mean like 5 days, but still we had to plan that buffer in because we weren't sure if something would happen to the RV. Now, as you're traveling a lot and as you're kind of seeing all these different places, it's kind of cool because you get to see different climates and landscapes and all this wildlife, all these different types of things in a matter of one day. Another thing that we do is if we see a beautiful spot that we just really want to visit, we'll pull off on the road and use that as our bathroom break. Part of the reason that we did actually push ourselves to get out and explore during these 5 states in 5 days was because we were doing a 100-day movement challenge, and that's why I went running in Bandon and why we exercised in Dayton and did little mini hikes throughout Yellowstone. It's not like 100 days of intense exercise, and if you follow us on social media, you've seen us post a little bit about this. So we actually spend like minimum of 10 minutes a day just getting out there and moving our bodies. It helps so much when you're traveling really quickly because you're sitting for so many hours a day. Your back starts to hurt, your neck starts to hurt, whatever. Everything starts to hurt basically. So getting out there and doing these little movements, it just helps make sure that everything's not tight at the end of the day. If you're interested in doing one of our 100-day challenges, you can check out our website. I'll put a link below. We're going to be developing more of these, but we do have several for you that you can download. We have a lot of templates you can take place in these challenges, and they're kind of a fun way to just keep you on track and try something new. From our 100-day challenges, we found so many beautiful spots, rivers, all this stuff that we would never have found otherwise. If you'd like more RV life tips and remote income tips, go ahead and subscribe. Normally, we don't cover just the stressful parts. We do cover our favorite destination and tips for living full-time life on the road. Subscribe for more.